Alright, so if you're here, that probably means World War III hasn't started, not yet. But let's be real, these last few days have been full of absolute chaos. I mean, what kind of mess did we just witness? Think about it. Netanyahu basically stood up and said, "Trust me, Iran's right on the edge of building a nuclear bomb," and then launched strikes without giving any real proof. And right after that, Trump joined in with his own attacks, claiming those nuclear sites were completely destroyed, which, let's be honest, just wasn't true. Between the two of them, they managed to spike oil prices, stir up tensions across the entire region, and casually started tossing around the idea of regime change in Iran. And then, this is wild, they actually thanked Iran for the heads up before hitting US bases. And now Trump's out here talking about a total ceasefire, like everything's cool. Seriously? By the way, I did say in my last video that I thought Trump might go ahead and strike Iran, and boom, it happened within 2 days. So if you missed that one, go check it out. But today, I want to break down what I think about the US strike. Was it the right call or a total mistake? Then I'll talk about Iran's response and what I believe could come next. Is it really over? Or is this just the beginning? And of course, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet, and hit that like button if you're into these kinds of breakdowns. This channel's been growing fast, and I appreciate all of you who've joined. Now, let's get into it. So first, let's talk about the US strike on Iran. And I want to be super clear here. No sugarcoating, no spin, just my straight up take. Honestly, I don't think it was the right move. And if it were up to me, I would not have gone through with that strike. Look, Iran's nuclear ambitions are definitely serious. That part's real. But dropping bombs on their facilities like that, publicly, and without coordination, does more harm than good. Sure, maybe it delayed their nuclear program a bit, but it didn't end it. You can't bomb away motivation. If anything, this just gave Iran even more reason to push harder and go deeper. Literally and strategically, the strike didn't have any congressional approval or international backing. There was no broader plan, no diplomatic follow-up, no coalition, nothing. It wasn't tied to NATO, the UN, or even a long-term vision. It just looked like Trump, trying to look strong for his base and score points politically. And maybe that worked for a few headlines, or made some allies like Israel happy. But the cost? Huge. Iran now feels cornered. Their leaders can point at this and say, "See? We told you the US is out to get us." That gives them more justification to move their program underground and ignore whatever diplomatic pressure is left. It also empowers their allies, Hezbollah, the Houthis, armed groups in Iraq, to retaliate. And if that happens, the US gets dragged even deeper into this mess. If we really want to stop Iran's nuclear efforts, it takes more than just bunker busters. It takes a long-term plan, real partnerships, and pressure that builds leverage, without burning every diplomatic bridge. But that's not what happened here. This move had all the shock and none of the strategy. So yeah, I think it was reckless. Bold doesn't always mean smart. And in this case, bold just meant dangerous. Now, maybe you disagree. Maybe you think it was the right call. If so, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. But now, let's shift to Iran's response and break that down too. Here's how I see it. Iran's response was very calculated. They hit a base in Qatar, but they gave advanced warning first, clearly trying to avoid US casualties. That's not about being kind. It's about being smart. Iran wasn't going to just sit there after getting hit with massive US strikes. But they also didn't want to give the US a reason to launch an all-out war. This was a warning shot, not a real escalation. And Trump's reaction? It was about saving face. He called Iran's strike weak and even thanked them for the warning. then suddenly started talking about a ceasefire and declaring victory. But let's not forget this whole thing kicked off because he decided to launch that first strike. There was no Congress approval, no support from allies, no real strategy. It was a theatrical move, more about making headlines than solving a crisis. Sure, Iran's nuclear program is a concern, but bombing sites without any serious plan just makes the situation worse. And now, Iran's got something even more powerful than those facilities' full-on support from their own public. That gives them the momentum to take their program even further, probably deeper underground, and even harder to track. And Trump, trying to take credit for calming things down when he's the one who started, is just not honest. This isn't peace. It's a temporary pause. Iran fired a warning. Trump spun it for PR, and now everyone's on edge, just waiting to see what happens next. Anyone who thinks this is over clearly does not understand how the Middle East works, and pretending everything's fine now, that's either willful ignorance or straight-up denial. So, what do I think is coming next? Let me give you my full unfiltered take on where this is headed. This entire mess wasn't the result of a strategy. It was a chain of reactions. It all started with Israel launching a surprise strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. Netanyahu said Iran was close to a bomb, but didn't show any solid evidence. The timing made it obvious that this wasn't just about security. It was about politics. With pressure mounting inside Israel, Netanyahu needed a distraction, something dramatic to shift attention and regain support. He knew one strike wouldn't stop Iran's nuclear program, but it would grab headlines and make him look strong. Then Trump followed, not with diplomacy or any kind of coordinated effort, but with massive bombings. Overnight, he turned a regional situation into a global flashpoint. Maybe it did some short-term damage to Iran's infrastructure, but it didn't solve the real issue. In fact, it gave Iran a great opportunity to paint themselves as the victim, rally national support, and bury their program even deeper underground. Here's the reality. Iran's nuclear ambitions haven't disappeared. The only thing that's changed is now they'll operate with even more secrecy and determination. A public that might have been split before? Now they're united behind the regime. So what did this operation actually achieve? A delay of a few months? Damaging a few buildings? As scientists are still working. The knowledge hasn't gone anywhere, and the motivation? That's stronger than ever now. This wasn't a win. It was a slap that only made the other side dig in harder. Now, I think that behind the scenes, everyone is trying to keep things from boiling over. Nobody wants a full-blown war. Publicly, they'll keep talking tough statements, threats, finger-pointing. But privately, they're trying to cool it down. Iran doesn't want to give Trump another excuse to escalate. And Trump doesn't want to get pulled into a long war while trying to project stability at home. Meanwhile, oil prices stay high, global markets stay uneasy, and Iran quietly rebuilds, stronger, smarter, more hidden. Here's the part nobody's saying. The U.S. may have just made it harder to strike Iran in the future, because now they'll adapt. So was any of this worth it? In my opinion, absolutely not. It was reckless, unplanned, and in the end, the most likely outcome is a shaky pause while both sides wait for the next spark. Let me know in the comments if you think a ceasefire is already in place by the time you're watching this, and if you think my take was on point. And as always, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet, and check out the links in the description if you want to support the channel directly. Now, go check out the next video where I break down every law Trump has allegedly broken since getting back into office. It's been out for a month, and honestly, it's probably time for a part 2. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you over there.